Hello. So I'm doing something a little bit different this time. Normally I wouldn't do this kind of video, but since it's potentially of interest, I don't know. Ironically, I don't like using videos for this kind of thing, but because I know a lot of people do and it could be of interest, I'm going to give it a go, just for fun. For the title, description, whatever, I have a PlayStation 5. I have 3 controllers. I have had a PS5 since the year it was introduced. It was hard to get a hold of. I got it when Sony did a direct sales thing in various regions, and so I got on the list for Europe, and I got contacted by them, and I got given, the instructions: phone this number go to this website between this time, at 9 a.m. and hopefully you'll get to order a PS5. And I did, and I got the dock, and I got the original, whatever they call the headset. I can't remember the name, so good job, Sony marketing, on coming up with a name for your chat headset wireless thing that cannot stick with my mind however many times I hear it. But this, the DualSense, one of the best controllers, I have to say, ergonomically and in terms of functionality. I think it's fantastic. I think this is a great gamepad. The earlier ones were kind of just like, okay, you took the DualShock and you made the DualShock with, I think, what was the change from the original DualShock to DualShock 2? I think was analog triggers, and then DualShock 3 was wireless and added the PlayStation button so you could turn on your machine. And then the DualShock 4 had the touchpad thing and the little social media button, and the DualSense has got adaptive triggers. It's shaped better. Otherwise, it's got similar functionality to the DualShock 4. It just has, more haptics. The vibration is more degrees of sensitivity. The adaptive triggers are actually pretty cool if you're playing like a shooter type game. They allow, like in Hitman, you can kind of go, right, I'm about ready to shoot with certain, it gives you like a slow-mo kind of, I can fine-tune my shot. But anyway, the problem with this controller is that although it's not a cheap controller by any stretch of imagination, it is significantly more expensive than the PS4 DualShock 4. It has a really crap battery inside of it. I was kind of surprised at how rubbish it actually is. And so as a consequence, after however many years, if I have I don't I don't do marathons often, but sometimes I'll play like online Helldivers 2 with friends, and we might do a few hours or something, but I can go through 3 controllers in the course of a day. The battery life over time has just nosedived. I mean, it's not quite at the point where I have to plug a cable in, and use a cable just to make it work, but it's not far off. So my friend Dave had said there's videos, showing you it doesn't seem too hard to replace the stock lithium-ion battery that comes with the DualSense controller. And so the other day he sent a link and said, look, here, you can, on Amazon, you can get this, which I did. This is, there's a variety of replacement battery options. This one is the Pickle Power 2-pack. You get 2 batteries in it. I've already swapped out one of my controllers, so this video is going to be me doing the battery on the original one. The first one I had was a Galactic Purple I bought before I got the PS5, and I used it with my Mac. This is the stock battery for the DualSense. It's this little gray slab. 1,350 milliamp hours. I mean, I wouldn't buy a frickin' AA battery with less than 2,100. So this is kind of shocking to me. And this is why, from the get-go, even when this thing was brand new, I was like, the battery life on the DualSense is such rubbish. I mean, my PS3 controller can go weeks. I mean, I don't play the hell out of it, but even when I was playing the Orange Box, I went a week plus of playing it a couple hours a day before I needed to charge that controller. And even the DualShock 4 battery life, days. This thing, you know, now it's at the point where it's like I can get 2 or 3 hours maybe, and then it's gone. Well, I'm running out of juice. And I have run it down to nothing just because you kind of go, all right, well, how much juice do I have left? I don't know. And then it dies, which is not great for the battery life. You don't want to run a lithium-ion battery down all the way. But, it happens. It wasn't a chronic, though. And I'm not playing the games like millions of hours a day. It's just not like my waking life. So it's just not good. Now, the replacement batteries for the Pickle Power set are 3,000. You can find more, higher capacity ones. I would use caution. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about, if these are any good or not. So this is 3,650 milliamp hours claimed. I don't have the kit to test it to confirm if that's actually the case or not. I have not even played with my Galactic Purple, but I figure, God, it's got to be better than what was there. But I have seen up to 6,000 advertised, or 4,000, just when you get one. This one you get two, and again, and it's like 18 quid, and you can get this little toolkit. It's nice, whatever. But, I have read reviews. Some of these, they're all made in China, and I'm not going to malign everything made in China, but I will say that electronics, it's kind of like you are throwing some dice. I have, certainly power cables and that. I absolutely would not trust anything that wasn't available in a retail shop. These I bought were already domestic, so they would have passed through UK customs. I don't have any faith in what the United States customs regime would say. So if you're in America, good luck. That's all I can say. Now this comes with two things, a screwdriver, which works pretty good. This is a right size. There's 4 screws you need to undo. And then you get this spudger, which has like some thin parts on it. I guess it would do the job, but to be perfectly honest, I didn't use this tool because it doesn't seem as flexible as what you get in an iFixit kit. I'm not getting paid here. I just got this for an aborted project. But it is a nice bit of kit. iFixit, you get like a little screwdriver, you get a million little tips. But the main thing is that I found handy for this is you get a spudger that has a pointy bit on one end and a flat bit on the other. And this was very key, I thought. Some super teeny tweezers. These were great for disconnecting the really tiny cable that the battery uses to connect to the innards of the gamepad, and for taking it apart, these little guitar pick things, which are very, unlike the spudger that comes with it, are very bendy and flexible. So, and super thin, much thinner than the edge of the spudger. So, I prefer to use this stuff, but I do like this screwdriver. It's got a swivelly top, so you can do the one-handed thing with it. Anyway, I'm going to try and show this, and we'll see how we go. I put a link in. I use iFixit. The iFixit website has a how to take this apart instruction that I use. It's not that complicated. I don't feel the need to refer to it again. I like looking at pictures because then I can just kind of like look while I'm working on it. I'm not like watching a video, backing it up, watching it again. Did I get that right? Did I see what this guy's doing? Which might be a problem you have with this. I don't know. But anyway, so the first thing we need to do is this is a plate in here that goes around the sticks. And you got to be careful. Well, you don't got to be careful, but you should be careful because you don't want to be doing this when your PlayStation is on and this thing is linked to it. The button that turns the PlayStation on is very sensitive, and when I did my other controller, I turned on the machine twice. So you really want to kind of avoid that. But we need to pop this out. 2 of the screws are here under the ends, and then we got to pop off the L1 and R1 buttons because the other 2 screws are here. And the whole point of this is to pop the bottom of this off. But that does involve taking off this plastic thingy, so it's basically you're getting at screws, so that you can open it up. The only part that I found really fraught, that was like prying up the wire and pulling this back cover off. That's a bit of a ooh, am I going to break something? And you're not going to break something. But it is like the first time I took the cover off my PS5, where if you don't know in your head, what does this look like inside, you're like, am I breaking something? Because it's like, pull it up and then slide it. And you're like, slide what? So that's a part of the point of doing this video, is to make you go, it's okay. You're not going to break nothing. Just be cool. So the best way to do this is you go in at the actual end, and you want to stick your little pry thing in there, and it just pops right in, right? So I just like, I didn't even have to force it. I just kind of went boop. It just goes right in there, and you just kind of, once you get the little tip in of whatever you're using, you run it all along the edge, and then you got to do the other side. This part's slightly fiddly, so then you get the other one, and I popped it in there. Again, you just kind of like stab it in, and it just pops up. And then you run it along the bottom edge. The bottom edge, right? So the bottom edge of the controller. So I'm running it along this little thing in here, because there's little clips where it connects. So you're popping these little clips up, and they're just like little pieces of plastic that stick into other pieces of plastic. But you do this, and they just kind of go, think, and they just pop right up. So this is pretty stress-free operation. Be careful around like the microphone, I suppose, if you're concerned about breaking something. And then you just kind of, once you've done that, you've loosened up this part, then you've got to kind of fiddle at it with your fingers, because, and you want to get it, you know, put a finger on, like I'm using the thumbstick here as a brace, and just a little pressure, not a lot, just enough, and then you can pop it off. So because these pointy bits go in on either side of the DualSense pad. Boop, like that. And then you can see, ooh, look, there's my microphone, you know, and the little ribbon cable, and there's the mute button, and there's the da-da-da-da. But the reason we did this is tiny screws. Tiny little screws that you can only see when the thing's upside down. And the screws are all the same. All 4 screws are the same, so there's no like, oh, I gotta remember or label it or whatever. So that's good. Now the next bit is a little more, ooh, I don't want to break nothing. So you take the thing, you hold it upside down, and you want to press the trigger, the adaptive trigger, the L2 trigger, and then you just take your spudger and you stick it in the thing, and you just, under the edge of the button, and you can just pop it right off. Right? It's got a very simple kind of clicky-click mechanism. It's not like, you know, super glued in there or anything, and again, you're revealing there's a little screw there. And you do the other side. And again, this is best to just hold the grip in one hand, take your little thing and just pop it under there, and it just pops right off. No biggie. Now, so we got those. Now one other thing, before we pry the rest of this apart, well, first we got to do the screws. But the one other thing to be aware of that needs to be done is right here, this might be hard to see, there's 2 clips on either side of the bit where you're charging. There are these tiny little clips here. And again, this is where I found this tool handy, because they're very small and they're fragile. So you'd only need, there's this a little thing, and you can see the thing in the middle, it's a tiny little lip. You take the, if you have something with a point on it, and again, I would not use metal, because this is, you know, plastic on plastic is better. Now we won't do this right now because I can't, there's no give here. I have, the screws are connected. But you only need to push them out like the tiniest bit so that they're not connecting to the little plastic bits that are sticking out. So you just need to slip that off first before you start prying the rest of this apart, because you don't want to break those, as otherwise you might have like your seal is not great on the controller, and you don't want that. I mean, it'd probably work fine, but you know, why bust your stuff if you don't have to? All right, so now we do the screws. So controller upside down. So we'll do the ones near the buttons. Thing, the bit is magnetic, always a plus. Absolutely, you want that because these screws are fiddly as hell. Trying to put it back together, you want a magnetic screwdriver bit for this. just to help you guide the screw in. Otherwise, it's kind of hard. If you had 3 hands, I'm sure it'd be fine, but I only have 2, so it would be a lot trickier. And then again, hold on to the handles because you don't want to accidentally turn the machine on. So far I've done good. I haven't brushed the PS button, so my PlayStation is staying nice and switched off. But you got to undo them all the way. And this is, again, this is like not a big deal. It's like 10 minutes. It's not, I wouldn't say it's trivial because, you are having to do all this crap. And I will say, shame on you, Sony. I mean, if you're gonna, I'm sure that there were 2 competing reasons for putting in a lower capacity battery. One would be the guts in this thing are probably far more expensive in terms of like the extra haptics and all that than previous controllers. So I don't have a problem with it being more expensive. That makes sense to me given what we're doing. However, if you're going to save some money on a smaller capacity battery, if you're going to go cheap on the power, give us a better way to replace this battery. I mean, Nintendo sold the Wii U. The Wii U gamepad came with a fairly low capacity battery. But Nintendo went and said, right, not everybody's going to dig this. So they put in a battery compartment cover on the back. 2 screws, pop it off, and there was a well in there for a bigger battery, which they sold themselves, so you could have a bigger battery if you were really going to be playing, a lot of Wii U games with the gamepad. And needless to say, I bought one. I still have the original battery as a fallback, but that's how you do it. Look at the size of this. You could very easily have had, 1 or 2 screws hinged opening to pop off and replace the battery. I mean, the controller costs like 80 quid. What the hell? Either that or just, charge £100 for it and give us a better battery for it so I don't even have to do this. I mean, your options are use it with a cord after a while or chuck it in a skip, or well, you should take it to a recycling center because these things got lots of stuff in them, like these batteries that you don't want in a landfill. But I'm just very disappointed. If you're going to go and do something like that, give the consumer the ability to extend the life of their product, please. Well, again, this is like the other part, the black plate. You stick your little guitar pick or whatever you're using in there, and there's some little clips in there, and you just run it along the edge and this is a lot easier because you've already popped the black part off, and you just slide it right up there, and there it goes. And you're just, again, all we're doing is we're pushing this thing apart because there's some little plastic clips in there, and there you go. So I mean, it will go back together easy enough, so you got to make sure that you don't accidentally squeeze them back into place. You want that proud, that really nice gap in there. Now let's see if I can get these little clippy bits in the front to come undone, because I don't want to break this. So the problem with this part is that now you have to put upside down, and you have to just kind of like, this is like the leap of faith moment, like the first time you opened up your PS5 to put in a replacement SSD, or an additional SSD I should say, not a replacement. Alright, so I got these things away. Alright, so, and you just have to, now the instructions on the thing from iFixit say, put your thumbs on the places where the screws were and just press it up. And eventually it will, the last part will click apart. Okay, there we go. And it just comes away. Right, so again, when you look at the inside of it, you're like, okay, the front part, there's these little bits here, and they clip on, but it's not like they're gripping on for dear life. So you just, it's a patience thing. You just want to kind of lever it a little bit, just gradually, little, and then it'll just pop apart. And now we can see what's inside. So we have our adaptive triggers here, and here's our battery. And it's just sitting there. It's not like clipped in or anything. Now, you don't want to pull on the wires because you don't want to bust the connector off inside of there. Now, the thing on the iFixit website is going to show you, oh, just take your tweezers and just pull it out. Well, it's not that easy. There is a bit of a lip, so you should be able to get the tweezers in there under the lip at the connector and just kind of weasel it out a bit. But I think it would be helpful, because when you connect it, you're not going to be putting it in this way, to pull out the battery like this, and then you've got the thing more exposed. But that's where these little teeny super micro needle nose pliers help a lot, is you just put them in and you just grip either side, and you can just kind of get them right under the edge of the connector, which is otherwise like flush against the compartment where the battery goes, the little tray, and it's really hard to get out. But see, that wasn't too bad. Initially, this was the most fraught part. I was just like, I can't get this thing under here. The other thing you want to note is the order of the wires. This isn't too bad because the thing goes and it's going to be up against it. These batteries have the same color coding of the wires in the same order, so there's no confusion. But do note, when it's plugged in, black is at the top, quote unquote, the top edge of the controller. So you got the black wire at the top. I'm pretty sure this connector will only go in one way. The wires are all at one end of it, so you can't force it the wrong way around, but just to save yourself a bit of headache mucking about with it. And again, I'm going to save this because why get rid of it? And where would I get rid of it? I'm not going to put it in the battery container at my local Sainsbury's, am I? But anyway, new battery. New battery is very different looking. I'm not really going to confuse these, featureless gray slab, with bright blue UKCA writing on the back. So again, I'm going to take it and I'm going to plug it in. So we put it in the little compartment. There's the little connector is right there, and I'm just going to, you want to make sure it's firmly seated. I think that's pretty good there. Okay, and we want the gray featureless side up. So the battery, now the cable, there is a little clip next to it. You probably can't see it, but right behind the wire there's a clip where you can kind of feed the wire. When it's folded, you can sit underneath, I guess, so it's out of harm's way. I don't know. It's not, I don't think it's really necessary. There's plenty of breathing room here for the wire. Alright, and now we do put it back together again. So again, the reverse part, since this kind of flipped up like it was hinged, we'll just kind of put it on that side first. And it is, the putting together is slightly more fiddly than the taking apart, but not too much more. So you just kind of like clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking. Yep, everything's clicking, click, click, click. Feels pretty good. All my clips are popped back into place. And then we get the screws, and again I'm using a magnetic screwdriver to save myself a lot of grief and dropping things and losing them and all that fun stuff. And again, this is metal screws and a plastic frame, so we don't need to make it super tight, because if we make it super tight we might crack the plastic, and then you're not really much point even using the screws anymore. But just get it in just tight enough that, yep, it's, just by feel. You're not trying to prevent anyone else from ever doing this again. So if these were bigger screws sticking out prouder, I would have said finger tight, just kind of like do it by hand and then just a few turns afterwards. But because these are little fiddly ones, you kind of got to do it from the get-go with the screwdriver just to get access, because it's too small. Even this child would not be able to finger thread these screws in. Right, so there's that. Buttons, trivial. The buttons are pretty trivial. Just make sure you got the. I mean, you can't really mess it up either because the R1 and the L1 and all that, they got to match up. So you just take the button and you look at it and you go, yep, and you just pop it right in. Just going to line it up. Yep, feels good. And then we do the other side. And again, the letter numbers line up with the other ones on the bottom, and it pretty much just goes straight in the middle. There's not really a lot of ways you can plug it in. You just kind of line it up and clickety click. This is a slightly fiddly part because you are stabbing these things into the thing, right? So I got to stab them like I'm stabbing the controller with these pointy bits, like. We get it in there. We got to make sure it's, going in. You got to get the top over the thumbsticks. This is the part that's a little bit. There we go. And then click, click, click. Everything goes click, click, click. And there we go. Now, does it work? That was the PlayStation turning on. Ooh, and I got glowing blue lights. Ooh, I don't know if you can see them. Glowing blue lights happening, folks. I know, just to be clear again about the battery thing. There are settings in your PlayStation menu relating to your controller to try to extend its battery life. One of them is the vibration function. I had that turned down to weak. The adaptive triggers, I had that turned down to weak. You can turn it off completely, but I like having something there. I mean, why have a DualSense if I'm not going to have the frickin' adaptive triggers, right? And turn on the light on it. So the light I kept turned down, but the other things I turned back up because I'm like, hey, I got this freaking fancy new high-capacity battery, supposedly. We'll find out in time. And that's the thing you got to be careful of with these. Some of these batteries are a bit too good to be true. For example, the 6,000 milliamp one, that battery is not as compact as this. People that have seen reviews are like, oh, the battery's bulging out on one side, it makes it kind of fiddly to put in. I really wouldn't want to mess with that. Because, I mean, there is a little bit of give in here, but not the battery tray. The battery tray is like the size of the battery. If the battery is too big to fit in that tray, it's not going to be sitting in there right. Which, to me, sounds like bad news. I'm going to put everything back in the box that it came in. And the other thing, of course, is that some of these things aren't made very well. So I read a review of another one, the 4,000 milliamp battery, which the guy was, who did it, he went and did a review, a follow-up, and said after, 8 months, something like that, it wouldn't go more than 2 bars on the charge. He couldn't fully charge the battery anymore. It just wouldn't take it. So you got to be careful, or at least buyer beware. Don't go out, I mean, this was 2 batteries for 18 quid, which is a good deal. I mean, these other ones I'm talking about were like, for 1 battery. So you're going, oh, is it, but who knows? I mean, it is going to be a kind of buyer beware, but I would say if it's being imported direct from China, don't do it. If you're in America, you obviously won't want to because you're going to get hit with some crazy-ass tariffs. You will anyway, probably. But the main reason is because it's, not necessarily going through the same kind of customs controls that something that was brought in by an importer for sale in the UK is going through. So Amazon bringing these goods into the UK first means they're going to go, theoretically, through a more rigorous customs process than if I order something direct from China, where who knows what the people in China are writing on that form. Like, does it comply with UK electrical standards? And you can go and say, oh, whatever, I have multi-port USB chargers. I have multi-gang extension cords. The number of reviews of imported things like, you know, an 8-outlet power socket coming from China that electrical engineers in the UK have written reviews. They open the thing up, they find A, not all the things are connected, B, maybe they're not grounded. They're actually like dangerous to connect to your home. So this, a battery inside of a controller, that's a risk that I'm prepared to take. Power thing that's plugged directly into my mains that might burn my frickin' house down, no. I'm not willing to throw dice on that. So, you know, Amazon, you're not helping us. You are, I mean, anything like power related like that, I go to Argos, I go to an actual brick and mortar store, because at least those guys had to go through some kind of import clearance. That good is going to be built to UK electrical engineering standards, so I feel more comfortable about it. Anyway, that was me doing this. I think it turned out pretty good. Thing's still on. I don't know how much power is in this. I did the other one. It came up with 3 bars when I looked at the PlayStation. I plugged it into the thing, into the charge cradle. It seemed fine. I moved it to the other position so that I had this one in the back for retrofitting. And it went through what looked like a full charge cycle for an hour. So, I don't know. I'm not rating these. This is not a review of the Pickle Power thing. What it is an instruction thing on how to put it in here. But buyer beware on all of these things. I may come to regret this. I don't know. I hope not, as I would prefer not to have to chuck my controllers into a recycle facility and then buy a new one just because it's been a few years and Sony, you know, gave us some not so super great battery capacity in their newest, latest, and greatest controllers. But anyway, have fun trying this out. It's not that hard, you know, just be patient and keep gaming.